Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. My name is Tim Barnett, and this is episode 64. That is right. We are presented by the Grid Network, and we got a heck of a show for you today. We got a lot of Patriots, a lot of Red Sox, because while the Bruins are just starting their preseason, had a nice come-from-behind victory last night against the dreaded New York Rangers, we still got to talk about what's really going on right now. That's the Pats and the Red Sox. And let me tell you, the Patriots right now, not good. Not good. As you guys know, I predicted the score last week to actually be a high-scoring affair. I thought that the Steelers would win this game 35-28, and I didn't mean that in terms of that I thought the Steelers were far and away a better team than the Patriots. I was looking at things that, hey, no Christian Gonzalez, that's going to be a big deal. I was also looking at it from the fact that, listen, Drake May performed well last week. Week one wasn't a banner week, so which Drake May are we getting? Well, we got a decent Drake May, I can tell you that, but the rest of the team seemed pretty much like hot garbage with the exception of a few, because the Steelers pretty much stole this game 21-14, as you can see here, which unfortunately makes me 3-0 in predictions. Maybe not the scores, but the teams that I pick have won. I picked Vegas, New England, and then Pittsburgh. I hate that two of my victories I chose against the Pats, but again, so be it. The thing is, Vrabel got hired, and in his introductory press conference, he said that he wanted the Patriots to, quote, be good enough to take advantage of bad football. Well, I don't know about you, but that was a prime example of bad football. Mostly from New England's side, but Pittsburgh was no cupcake. I mean, they were atrocious in a very different sense. Aaron Rodgers is done. His career, he needs to wrap it up. The career's over. All right? He is never going to get back to 2010 Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to get back to, hell, even 3 years ago, when he won MVPs. Okay? He is done. He needs to wrap it up. Now, the Steelers just could not move the ball, as evident as what their stat line read after the game. I mean, when you look at the stats from that game, the team stats, right? When you look at it, New England ran 71 plays to Pittsburgh's 49. New England had 26 first downs to Pittsburgh's 17. All right? And then, this is the kicker. The Patriots had 369 total yards to Pittsburgh's 203. Barely cracked 200. Let me tell you, 4 yards less in New England's defense would have been a starter for your fantasy team. Instead, it was Pittsburgh's because they got the turnover regardless. So, and then when you're looking at the passing, again, this is why Aaron Rodgers needs to hang it up. Drake May threw for over 250 yards, and Aaron Rodgers threw for $139. 139. The great and almighty Aaron Rodgers. As I said last week when I was going through the comparisons, Drake May right now is better than Aaron Rodgers. And he showed it. Then when you look at the rushing stats, New England rushed for 119 yards to Pittsburgh's 64. Again, really the only big difference, which I don't know about you, but is kind of a big difference. New England had 5 turnovers to Pittsburgh's 1. Like, you want to talk about bad football? That was totally on display Sunday afternoon at One Patriot Place. That is wildly unacceptable for both squads. But in our purposes, for New England, because we're Patriot fans. So, looking at this, the Patriots' record at home, and this is another thing too, because ever since Brady left, obviously our home record has suffered tremendously. And that's kind of a big deal, because home field advantage should matter. And I'm starting to get the sense that, a lot of these stadiums don't necessarily have the same home field advantage in terms of design. And, when you go to Kansas City, again, the way that stadium is designed, everything funnels downward, which is why it's so loud. But when you go to Gillette, everything's more outdoors. You get the, now they have where the lighthouse is kind of blocked off, so maybe that will keep the noise in. But even still, ever since the start of the 2023 season, the Patriots have a home record of 3-16. But when you look at our home record under Tom Brady in the regular season, Tom Brady was 121-21. The Patriots had a win percentage of 85% under Tom Brady. The Patriots have the same percentage, only to lose, though. In other words, when you buy a ticket to go see the Patriots now, you have an 85% chance of them losing compared to when Tom Brady was our quarterback. When Tom Brady was our quarterback, it was, hey, there is a extremely high likelihood that the Patriots are going to win this week, which is great. That's why you go see. That's why you want to go to these games. Yes, you want to also go out, spend some time with your family, some friends, have a few beers, go tailgating, all the fun stuff that comes with going to a football game. Absolutely. But also, part of going to that football game is you want to see your team win. And under Tom Brady, it was almost a done deal that was going to happen. Now, it's almost a done deal that the team is going to lose. And, not to mention, one of those 3 wins was you and the other team trying to actively lose. Which, again, Week 18 last year, Buffalo came into town. You wanted to lose to get the number 1 overall pick. They were trying to lose in order to not let you get the number 1 overall pick. And Buffalo succeeded in that. They lost, you won. Imagine, 2-17. If that was the case, the Patriots would have a 90% chance of losing since the 23 season. It's mental. It's warped. Now, is everything dark and gloomy? Kind of. No. In other words, is everything dark and gloomy from the sense that the rest of the season's in the tank? No, it's not. And it shouldn't be. And yes, was I extremely upset on Sunday? Absolutely. Of course I was. How could you not be? If you weren't ready to flip a couple of tables, do you have a heartbeat going on, right? No, but it was just unacceptable. Unacceptable from the standpoint that you're a professional football organization. How the hell are you going to continuously compete when you're fumbling twice, or with one running back, fumbling another time with another running back, then your quarterback gets strip sacked, and that same quarterback throws a pick that wasn't necessarily his fault. The Cam Hayward had a hell of a read, tipped it, and it just didn't have enough oomph on the ball and went to the DB. Fine. But you want this team to take advantage of bad football, and not for nothing, the Steelers were giving you that. The Steelers wanted to lose that game. You know, they weren't as much in it as you either. At least they held on to the football, though. That's the kicker. That's the kicker with this. So, when looking at these turnovers, right, again, Ramondre Stevenson led the NFL from the running back position. He led all running backs in the NFL with 7 fumbles lost last year. Last week, phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. You know, to the point where it's like, hey, are we starting to get that 2022 Ramondre Stevenson back? Is he back? Like, are we, good to go? We got Ramondre back. Trayvion's going to be our third down back. He's going to block. He's going to take some swing passes. All these things. Everything's going to be great. That was after Miami. Now, after Pittsburgh, after week 3, I'm kind of done. I am done with Ramondre. I don't mean that in the sense that, I do mean that in the sense that, all right, sayonara, adios, thank you for your service. Please. It's been good, but it really hasn't. Because you're a professional ball player. Your job, your main job, is to hold on to the football. So when you're looking at that first fumble that immediately followed up a potential interception, which wouldn't have been an interception had Hunter Henry not tripped and fallen. I've heard a few media personalities go out and talk like, oh, Drake May threw it right to the Pittsburgh guy. Yeah, because it was a timing route with Hunter Henry running up, taking a hard right to the boundary, and Jalen Ramsey ran into him, and he got tripped up by his defender. So they called the penalty on that, rightfully so. But Drake May was expecting Henry to be there, and he would have been there, but he fell. So to anyone who says that first drive potential interception, that was not how Hunter Henry was breaking as Drake May was releasing the ball, a timing route. And so, again, the very next play was the fumble from Ramondre Stevenson where excuse me. Okay, there it is. Cole Holcomb. Ramondre was running through the B gap, otherwise known as in between the guard and the tackle. He was running that way, and all of a sudden, he's holding onto it with one arm, just like this. There we go. Just like this, right? Got the ball right here. And he's running through the hole, barely crossed the line of scrimmage, and Holcomb, to his credit, just was reaching out and grabbed his hand and just pulled this way. And it did it enough where the ball got loose, jabbed loose, and fumbled. Now, credit to Holcomb for just, as he's lying out there, falling down, he just reaches out, grabs it, and it works. But at the end of the day, when you're running in between the tackles, and you're at the line of scrimmage, if not a yard or two past it or before it, you should be holding on to that with both arms. That is what you were taught in Pee Wee football. You were taught to hold it in both arms as you're running through the line. Once you get past the second level, once you get past the linebackers, then you can take that second arm off. And then you can do a little bit more. You can, juke. You can stiff arm. All these other things in order to continue to run and break free. But when you're in the trenches right there, you need to hold on to the football with both hands. And after the season that Stevenson had last year, what are we doing? How have you not figured this out, Ramondre? And to his credit, after the game, he was extremely hard on himself and, understood that, hey, I can't be doing this. If I'm going to have a successful career, I can't be doing this. I can't be fumbling the football. And he's like, if I keep fumbling, this team's not going to need me. Facts. Like 100% factual in that regard. So I'll tip of the cap to Ramondre for understanding that and acknowledging the fact that, hey, this is on me. This is my fault. And I had the problem last year, and it still carried over. So he's got to get that cleaned up. But then the fumble at the goal line, Michael Onwenu absolutely missed his assignment. Absolutely missed it. He tried cutting at him, and his assignment just basically leapfrogged right over him, got into the backfield, almost met Stevenson where he got the ball. It's about a yard after that, but he basically met him in the backfield, knocked it out right as Stevenson's entering the pile. At the goal line, twice, we had the ball inside the 5, and both times we came up with nothing. Goose eggs. That's a sign of a bad football team. You need to come away with points. This is a time in New England football history where, understandably so, we are a developing team. But we finally have good pieces on the coaching staff, good pieces in certain areas going out and making the big signings like Milton Williams, like Carlton Davis III, like Stephon Diggs, which, by the way, where's Stephon Diggs at? And why isn't he getting more targets? Why isn't he more of a number one guy? It's situations like these that you gotta get out of this. You gotta take advantage of that bad football. Like Vrabel said when he's part of the introductory press conference. That's honestly part of why we were so dominant, is because we took advantage of bad football teams. I mean, all those years in Buffalo. All those times Buffalo wanted to give us, a challenge, and they did. And then all of a sudden, they crapped their pants. It's like, all right, thank you. Here's the gift for you, New England. We took it, we accepted it, and we ran away with it. That's a lot of those 121 wins that Tom Brady had at home. And all the others on the road, too. But this was a prime example, and a prime example for Drake May to get that final game-winning drive and finally start to build up that clutch gene, right? Start to build up that. And I don't know what Pop Douglas was thinking, but the fact that he didn't fall forward for that 1 yard is mind-boggling. I'm going to talk about that in a little minute, but this game was just bad football all around. Again, as I made the joke that Buffalo wanted to lose that game and you wanted to lose that game in Week 18 of last year, this game was the exact same thing. Pittsburgh clearly didn't want this game. You just couldn't hold on to the friggin' football to save your life. And, it was atrocious. It was disgraceful, really. Because to have 5 turnovers in a single game should not be anywhere near the professional level. A couple, sure. But 5? That's where you push it. And the one nice thing I'll say, which actually doesn't go to both sides, but the one nice thing I'll say was, I love the fact that Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt were the commentary team for television, because when when Pittsburgh got the holding call or PI call, or when Keishon Boutte, got the PI call drawn, and Iron Eagle just said, grab too much booty, and J.J. Watt started laughing. How could you not laugh? I mean, it was so friggin' funny. Sitting there like, grab too much booty, absolute layup, had to do it, and I'm glad they did it. And it was priceless. It was priceless. But getting into the game day grades, that is something, again, we talk about all the time. Need to, I like to give away the grades, A through F, to show everybody, hey, these are the guys who I thought played well, and these are the guys who I thought sucked. And the guys who sucked, it's going to be a big list. But I try to make it as nice as I possibly could. So starting off with the letter A, I had Robert Spillane, Hunter Henry, and Khyiris Tonga. Now, Khyiris Tonga is not going to appear on the stat sheet, but the dude is explosive as a D tackle. He is forcing the line of scrimmage backwards. When he's rushing the passer, he's probably our best run defender. And because our run defense is about average, so the fact that, and he's a major reason why, right? He might not get the numbers, he might not get the tackles, but he's forcing that line of scrimmage back and helping out the linebackers to drop down and go ahead and make the plays. So, big fan of what Khyiris Tonga did this Sunday. Even though he wasn't appearing on the stat sheet, he still helped the defense out tremendously. And then Hunter Henry is my second guy. Hunter Henry, 8 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. That 4th and 2 from inside the 20 that Drake May just hit him on the seam, was able to scamper on in. He was definitely a great safety blanket as a receiver for Drake May. And it's great to see that tight end quarterback relationship, because that's what tight ends are, especially for a lot of younger quarterbacks, is they're a safety blanket. And Hunter Henry is not only a safety blanket, but he is, what's the word I'm looking for? He is the safety blanket, but he's also, he comes through whenever you call upon him. And that's the thing that Drake May needs right now more than anything. Is that when he's going to Hunter Henry, Drake May knows for sure that Henry's going to come down with it. Though, I will say, Hunter Henry absolutely needs to get better and a little bit more forceful in the chip blocking game. The fact that T.J. Watt got a sack off Hunter Henry, half-assing his chip on T.J., and not giving Morgan Moses the necessary time to get back and to adjust for T.J. Watt's rush, that is something that Henry absolutely needs to work on. And I wouldn't be surprised if they talked about that on Monday or Tuesday when they were going over film. And then, of course, the number one guy in that A group is Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane was electric this game. 15 total tackles, 10 solo tackles, and an interception. The man was all over the place, and that's something that he needs to be. He needs to be that on a consistent basis. Now, maybe not those gaudy numbers, not 15 and 10, but he needs to be involved. He needs to get his defense playing the way they did, because they shut down this Pittsburgh offense for the most of they shut down this Pittsburgh offense for most of the game. Yes, the first 2 drives were awful, but once those drives were over, it wasn't until that fumble by May late in the 4th quarter that Pittsburgh finally got that go-ahead touchdown. So Robert Spillane, heck of a day on Sunday. And then for the B grades, I gave to Harold Landry III and Carlton Davis III. Harold Landry was another guy who didn't he just created a lot of havoc in the backfield. Again, getting that pressure back to Aaron Rodgers, throwing him off his timing was absolutely something that needed to happen. Also, Harold Landry forcing a fumble on Jonnu Smith. Granted, it did go out of bounds, so it was Pittsburgh's ball, but his heads-up playmaking ability to dive at Jonnu, punch the ball out, and unfortunately the field couldn't have been another foot or two wider, or we would have gotten it. But Harold Landry, I thought, was very good on Sunday as well. And then Carlton Davis, I gave him a B as well because he covered DK Metcalf for most of the game. Yes, he did let up that 15-yard touchdown, but outside of that, he held him to 3 receptions, 32 total yards, and that touchdown. So 2 receptions for 17 yards, I'll take that. Carlton Davis is absolutely earning his contract right now, especially with the fact that Christian Gonzalez is out and hopefully will play on Sunday against Carolina. Then as for C, I thought, had an average day. There was some good and there was some bad. It doesn't mean that they sucked. I just thought that, again, they definitely could have been better. And I gave that to Drake May, Morgan Moses, and Will Campbell. Now, with Drake May had an all-around better, much better game than Aaron Rodgers by a wide margin. And because of the fact that, Drake May was 28 for 37, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that 1 interception. Now, that 1 interception, again, as I mentioned earlier, Cameron Hayward was reading Drake May beautifully, just like a vet lineman would. And he was just able to throw his arm off. Ball tipped up in the air. Otherwise, had Cameron Hayward not gotten contact with that football, Drake May would have had an easy touchdown in the back of the end zone. So I thought, and again, it's hard. I'm not going to sit there and say that Drake May is completely absolved of blame because he has to see that. He has to understand, who's rushing, who dropped off, what's going on, who's reading me, and if so, okay, how am I going to get the ball to my wide receiver? So otherwise, and then that fumble too, was right when we needed it. The game was tied at 14, just under 8 minutes remaining, and then of course Pittsburgh was able to get that fumble and then march down the field to score with about 2:20 remaining in the fourth quarter. So it was a tough fumble, not something that you want to see. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say Drake May sucked. No, he's actually been very good the last 2 games. But one of Drake May's biggest problems is the fact that he comes up with these late or just bad turnovers in crucial moments because he's trying to do too much. And you could argue that's exactly what he was doing because when I was watching the replay, half the line was giving up. Half the line gave up because they're like, it's been 8 seconds, Drake. What the hell are you still doing in the pocket? Which is probably what they're thinking after the play. But that's the thing. Drake May needs to have that clock go off, and if you can't get rid of it, or if you are still stuck, you have to get rid of it. Find the nearest receiver near the boundary and just chuck it out of bounds. And hope that they're not going to call the penalty. I can't believe I just blanked on that. Regardless, so again, bad turnover at the worst time. That's not something you want. But I would still give Drake May a good game. C worthy. C plus. Then I got Morgan Moses and Will Campbell as both C's, right? So as for Morgan Moses, not bad going against TJ Watt, but again, could have used more help from Hunter Henry. TJ Watt still got 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 QB quarterback hits. All right, not great. And as for Will Campbell going up against the backup, Nate Herbig. Nate had some moves for Will Campbell. Nate got into the backfield a couple of times. So it was definitely one of those things where, Will Campbell didn't have a terrible game. But, again, still some areas that need to be improved. Our offensive line still needs a lot of work. Now for the fun part. The guys who sucked. And starting off with the letter D, Demario Douglas, Michael Onwenu, Clayvon Chason, right? Those 3. Now, as for, I'm going to use Douglas last. So, as for Chason, on the very first play from defense, he jumps off sides. Undisciplined. Then, got a defensive holding call for grabbing the left tackle's arm slot, right in here, right by, the armpit. On a play that went nowhere for Pittsburgh. And so I thought Chason just was extremely undisciplined. He was a high draft pick, but part of the time I'm seeing as to why he's bounced around, why he's now with us and not the team that drafted him. As for Onwenu, I said earlier that he blew the block on the Stevenson fumble at the goal line, which absolutely contributed to Ramondre's fumble. Then, Onwenu had a illegal man downfield penalty where we gained 17 yards. Unfortunately, that was a 5-yard penalty from where he was. And the funniest part about that was if you watch that replay, Onwenu goes downfield about 5 yards, realizes that, oh, wait, he's 5 yards, he's passed, and then he starts backpedaling. And I remember, Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt talking about it. But watching the replay, it's just like, whoop, didn't see me here, nope. So it was a net negative 22 yards, basically. Between the 17-yard gain and moving back 5 yards, because the 17 gain is negated. Then we go back 5 yards. So we just lost 22 yards in one play. All because he went too far downfield, which is ridiculous. And the thing about it is, the reason why, I'm harping on this is because he's not living up to the contract that Elliott Wolf signed. Elliott Wolf, the start of last year, gave him a 3-year, $57 million guarantee with $36.5 guaranteed at signing. Has Onwenu lived up to this contract? Let me know down below your thoughts if he has or hasn't, because to me, he's been nowhere near the contract that we signed him for. So he's got a cap hit of $21 million this year and $25 next year. It's a contract that, again, shows Elliott Wolf in a terrible light, because all Wolf did last offseason was just sign everybody back to these, big contracts. And I'm not saying that I agree, or that, I'm going to punish them totally, but I am going to punish them a little bit because, yes, were there not many great free agents last year? Correct, there weren't. And especially at the offensive line. But at the end of the day, you got to do your due diligence and you got to get out there. Bringing back Onwenu just, at whatever number he wanted. Which, hey, credit to Mike. I mean, he got the number. He got the money. He's set. He's good. But now we get to look back at this and be like, that was an awful decision. Something that New England and Elliott Wolf, who's been around the league for a very long time, he was in the draft room with his father in Green Bay. You think that Elliott Wolf knew what he was doing? No, of course not. The man needs to, again, how many times do I have to say, Elliott Wolf needs to go? So then I got to get to Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas has had arguably one of the worst starts to a season you could have asked for. And he is not a guy that you really want to hang your hat on. Because this season, against Vegas, he had 2 receptions for -2 yards and a touchdown. Can you process that? 2 yards for a total of two receptions for a total of -2 yards and 1 touchdown. So he obviously gained a yard. Wild. Second of all, against Miami, he had 1 catch on 1 target for 8 yards. And then this week, 2 catches, 5 targets for 7 yards. Oh, and not to mention, the most pivotal play of the game at the end of the 4th quarter. You're going down. You're actually marching down the field to go and score the game-tying touchdown to send us into overtime. You had a 4th and 2. So, Demario, please explain for us what was running through your mind when this play was called. All right? Here, check out the video from the post-game press conference.
4th down play, is that designed for you to get to the sticks, or is that designed to go before and make a play?
It was a play. It wasn't designed for anything. It was just.
Did you think you were at the 1st down
Nah,
area, or you didn't know where you
yeah,
were?
I was somewhere by it. I know I was somewhere by it because we only had 2 yards.
So you knew you probably had to make a play, I'm guessing.
Yeah, facts.
Somewhere by it. His right foot was touching the fake yellow line. It was right there. All he had to do was catch and turn and fall. He didn't need to go make a play. He didn't need to run backwards to then run forward. All he had to do was catch, tuck, and fall. And make sure the ball is going to cross. That's it. That's all he had to do. But no, Douglas is not that player. Douglas is not the slot receiver that we all know and love as New England Patriot fans. He is not Troy Brown. He is not Wes Welker. He is nowhere close to Julian Edelman, the new Patriots Hall of Famer. I like Demario Douglas, but he is not tough. He is not a tough slot player, and that play, I think, says it all about him. Because this wasn't hard. And the other 3 plays that I mentioned were not only tough, but were extremely knowledgeable and had the awareness, the game awareness, to know one more step is going to get me that first down, and all I have to do is then sit down. I don't even have to fall forward. I can just sit down. Julian Edelman was the master at knowing where the first down marker was at every single step. This right here was atrocious because even in his post-game press conference where he says, yeah, he was somewhere near it. Like, bro, you don't, that's not something you say. And again, it was true. I don't doubt in his mind that he had no idea. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's a couple of yards. All I have to do is, run out and, hook just half an inch. Like, that is something that you need to know. You need to know that here's the first down marker. I am going to get it. I'm going to run up. I'm going to hit, plant my foot, turn, and then I'm going to catch it. I'm going to fall straight down because I know for a fact that I've ran 3 yards instead of 1.5 yards. That was an absolutely atrocious example of a slot receiver I've seen in a while. Which is why I'm all the more reason bringing Efton Chisholm, man. Bringing the Eastern Washington kid who wowed us all throughout training camp. Because I guarantee you, from what I saw in training camp in the preseason games, Chisholm would have known what the first down marker was. And he would have gotten it. And he would have caught the ball beyond the first down marker. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying he would have, but I wouldn't be surprised if he also gained a few extra yards out of it. I will say, credit to Drake May for the postgame to try to fall on the sword, because in the postgame press conference, Drake May went out and said, hey, listen, I need to do better at telling my teammates, hey, we need to get here. We need to get to this yard line in order to get the first down. That shouldn't be his job. I mean, he's got a lot to worry about. Everyone on the field should know where the first down marker is. It's like, in baseball, everyone playing defense in the field needs to know how many friggin' outs there are. So, outside of that, that's why Pop Douglas absolutely deserved a D. Very close to an F. But when it comes to the Fs, Ramondre Stevenson, Alex Austin, and Christian Ellis. And once again, working my way from the bottom up, starting off with Christian Ellis. He got benched very quickly in this game because he missed 2 tackles and overran several plays. Christian Ellis was horrendous on Sunday. And then, of course, after he gets taken out, everything started seeming to work better with him gone. So, something needs to be done with him. He's got to figure it out real quick. Also, Alex Austin had 2 horrendous pass interference calls and was picked on and subsequently picked on by Aaron Rodgers because he knew he could take advantage of it, and that's why he got benched. Now, when it comes to those PI calls, say what you will about the refs, and trust me, I was saying it all freaking game, man. Some of these refs really love the TV spotlight and really want to make it all about them. So they'll throw flag after flag after flag, even when it's extremely soft. I was texting with Bryson Kava, my guest appearance from last week's episode, who is a big Steeler fan. And when Milton Williams sacked Aaron Rodgers, and they called that PI call on Alex Austin for just being less than a foot away from the receiver. Even Bryson said to me, the Steeler fan, that's a terrible call. There is no pass interference there. So if you have Pittsburgh guys saying that that's a bad PI call, then it's a bad PI call. The only problem is these refs have zero accountability. Zero. The fact that Belichick, for a very long time, when it came to replay, wanted every single play available to challenge. PI calls, holding calls, all the flags that get thrown. The thing that drives me nuts, and this didn't happen for New England, but it happened for the Auburn-Oklahoma game, the SEC refs. Refs came out and apologized after Auburn and Oklahoma played because they screwed up. But here's my question. What happens to them? Again, with these refs, if the NFL put out a statement saying, hey, we just want to let you know that in the second quarter with the 12:34 minute mark, Alex Austin was flagged for a PI call that was on 3rd and 10 in which Milton Williams recorded a sack. We apologize. That was the wrong call. Milton Williams should have gotten that sack, and then Pittsburgh should have faced a 4th and 14. That's the NFL statement. Then what? Everything goes back to the way it was? Things change. The game gets rewritten from there. The refs get penalized. They get fined. They get fired if they do it too much. Oh, no, they don't. There's no penalty for being a referee. It's fine. Hey, you know what? You screwed up. It's no big deal. You're lawyers and you're judges. You're, chefs anyway. You have another job to go to. Who cares? It's only a game, right? This game is people's livelihoods. And God forbid a coach or a player goes into that press conference absolutely heated and proceeds to bash on the referees, saying they sucked, they wanted their 15 minutes of fame, they got it for all the wrong reasons, they are now infamous, not famous. That player or coach will then get subsequently fined tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because no. You can't talk badly about the refs. No, you can't. That's a no-no. Don't do that. And we're going to punish you real hard. But then if the refs openly admit that they screwed up, there's no penalty? You're not going to look into these refs? No. And the worst part is, you have former officials on these TV broadcasts who are going to defend the referees tooth and nail. Which is absurd. Because at the end of the day, don't we want fair games? Don't we want something that we know definitively is as close to as perfect as possible? I mean, the idea of challenging every single potential play is an interesting one, especially when you only get 3 challenges. That's it. That's all you get. You get 3 chances to either overturn something or to implement a flag where there initially wasn't one. Also, these referees need to be held accountable. Because if they're not held accountable, I'm all for deporting them. Let's call ICE. See what they can do. No. But in all honesty, the referees absolutely need to be held accountable, especially now that the game, a lot of these referees love to gain this TV time, to go on, to make these long, elaborate speeches on, hey, it's a holding call, number 72, 10 yards, boom. No. It's always, after review of the play, there is a holding call on number 72. He was grabbing the inner chest pad of number 56, and he twisted and threw him to the ground. And as he was doing that, proceeded to knee him in the rib. So it's going to be a holding call that's going to put the offense 10 yards back from the 24 to the 14. Repeat, second down. These guys love to hear themselves talk, don't they? So, yeah. Alex Austin, meanwhile, wrap it around. Alex Austin, say what you want, but at least that first PI call was arguably the correct call. That second one, though, absolutely atrocious. And he was just getting picked on by Aaron Rodgers. And, of course, I went into this a lot earlier, but Ramondre Stevenson, absolute F. Tip of the cap to him, though, for admitting, hey, if I keep doing this, this team's going to essentially, if I keep doing this, the team's going to cut my ass. So, I appreciate his candor and the fact that, he's upfront and honest. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, yeah, I might be the running back number one, but they can go out and sign somebody else, who will hold on to the football. That's true. We really need to start looking into doing that, or maybe making an acquisition. Hell, Brian Robinson Jr. got traded all the way to San Francisco. I don't know. I might have been able to put in a phone call. Might have thrown a 6th-round pick Washington's way to add another secure running back to the stable. But no. So week 3 was not kind to New England. It wasn't. But thank God that week 3 is now over. Now we get to look forward to week 4. The Carolina Panthers visiting Gillette Stadium. And when looking at these teams, when obviously comparing the two, going by position, we got to start at the quarterback first. You got Drake May or Bryce Young. And before I bring up the comparison, let me ask you, comment down below, who would you want, Drake May or Bryce Young? Because for me, taking Drake May all day, every day. Because when you're looking at the 2025 season for the two of them, Bryce Young has 603 pass yards to Drake May's 785. Bryce has a 60.5% completion percentage to Drake May's 72.6 completion percentage. Bryce Young has 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, whereas Drake May's got 5 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions. And this is a massive difference. But the passer rating between the two, Bryce Young has a 75.3 passer rating to Drake May's 101.3 passer rating. And their QBR, Bryce Young's got a 42.5 QBR to Drake May's 57.5. So when looking at that, I am clearly taking Drake May at the quarterback position. No two ways about it. Drake May is my guy. And listen, I enjoyed what Bryce Young did at Alabama. I thought he was pretty good at Alabama, but his days in Carolina got off to an extremely shaky start, and he's been fine. He's this season. He was able to find the turnaround near the end of the year last year, which was great for him. But even at Drake May's young age and lack of experience in terms of college and pros like Bryce Young has, Yeah, I'll still take Drake May over and over again. I mean, Drake May is showing more and more signs of understanding what he needs to do. Now, does he need to throw the ball further and start to try to open up the passing game? Absolutely. Him and Josh really need to get a hold of opening up the long ball, trying to get Kayshon Boutte deep, Mac Hollins deep, even Stephon Diggs deep. But with that being said, I still want Drake May. Now, as for the running back position, this was tough because you're asking me to judge running backs off of what happened last week, which it's not just judging off of last week, it's judging off this season, of course. But Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle did not have 4 fumbles between them in a single game. So unfortunately, give me Carolina's running backs and also give me Carolina's wide receivers. I know they're young. I know there's not a lot of experience there with Teteroa McMillan, Xavier Legette, who is questionable. And if he's out, I think that's going to hurt this Carolina offense, which isn't great anyway. But if Xavier Legette is not playing on Sunday, that's a massive benefit to New England. Because then they have a aging Hunter Renfrow as their third receiver. So who they cut at the start of the season and then brought back because Jalen Coker got hurt. And with that being said, I still would take their receivers. Even if Xavier Legette doesn't play, which I think he will. And if he does play, I would take their receivers over ours, especially with Pop Douglas having zero awareness for where he needs to be on the field. I like Stephon Diggs. I like Mac Hollins. I even like what Kayshon Boutte brings to the table. And I'm not saying that it's a wide margin, of difference. It's really about this. But we're not using our receivers properly. We're not. And that's an issue. And it's something that while Hunter Henry has been a great security blanket for Drake May, They got to get the wide receivers more involved. And once they start to get more involved, then I would probably give the edge to New England in that regard. But outside of that, when it comes to tight ends, of course, I'm going Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. As for the O-line, again, there really isn't much separation between these two. It's just that we are better pass blocking than we are run blocking, and they're about roughly the same, which is average to below average. Us, we're top 10 in pass blocking according to PFF, but we're also bottom 5 run blocking according to PFF. So with that being said, it's kind of one of those, at least they're consistently average to slightly below average. So I am leaning Carolina's way. But here's the thing. I am also taking our defensive line more than theirs. I like Brian Burns for Carolina. But give me our defensive line. Give me Kyrus Tonga, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. Those guys, I think, are going to cause havoc in the backfield for Bryce Young. As long as we can hold our gaps and not allow Bryce Young to run around, scramble, and extend the play, I think we got a really good shot in this game. And that's what I just said. I take our D line. I basically take our defense over theirs. Their defense is not as good as ours, and especially if we get Christian Gonzalez back, no question we're a much better defense with Christian Gonzalez on one side and Carlton Davis on the other. As for special teams, though, it's about equal. I mean, 2 solid, strong punters as well as 2 rookie kickers. So it's going to be an interesting game. As for my pick, this is a must-win game for New England. Must-win game. Because after this, we're going to be going to Buffalo, which is never easy for us. And the last thing that we need is to go 1-4 through 5 games, which I'm almost certain chalking up that Buffalo game as a loss up in Orchard Park. So my prediction for Sunday's game, hoping to make it 4-0, I got New England winning this game 24-17. I think what's going to happen is New England's going to get a 24-10 lead. And then in the later stages of the fourth, somewhere probably around the 3 to 4 minute mark, I think Carolina is going to march down the field. They're going to score a touchdown. And then they're going to have that, depending on how many timeouts they have, they're going to have that question mark of, okay, are we going to punt the ball? Are we going to kick off and force them to get a couple of first downs to solidify the game? Or are we going to try an onside kick and give them good field position, if we don't recover? I feel like that's kind of where this game's going to be. I think New England's going to take an early lead. I think they're going to jump out, not to a 24-0 lead, but I think that, near the later stages of the fourth, it's going to be a 24-10. Carolina's going to score, make it 24-17, and then they're going to give us the ball back, whether onside or kickoff. And then we're going to have to go and actually win the game. Get the couple of first downs, take a couple kneel downs. We're done. So that's my prediction. Let me know below what your thoughts are for the game on Sunday at home versus the Panthers. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with Gonzalez and if he does play on Sunday. Now, as for the Patriots Hall of Fame, I do want to say that, again, shout out to Bill Parcells and Julian Edelman for getting inducted, getting the Red Jackets into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Both well-deserved Hall of Fame candidates. And I was way too young for the Bill Parcells saga that went down. And I've seen the videos, I've seen the clips, got to go shopping for those groceries. But I understand why Robert Kraft, why a lot of Patriots fans hold a lot of disdain towards Bill Parcells. I do. He not only quit on the team late in the season to go to the Jets, which ironically we made the Super Bowl that year, and he had a coach all the way through, but he also stole Curtis Martin from us. He knew we couldn't, keep him in terms of the salary cap. So, again, real dirty plays by Parcells. But I think it's rightfully deserved. Because without Bill Parcells, I don't know if New England ever gets on the map like we did, under Parcells. Because with Bill here, it solidified that this team is about to turn legit. That was the big play. That was the big thing. We were this nobody. We were a black hole in terms of the NFL. Basically, once you got to the Jets and Giants, you're like, wait, we got to travel, another 5 hours, 6 hours north to Foxborough, Massachusetts? Not even Boston? Like, where are we? Look at all the other guys. Willie McGinnis gets drafted here. Tom Brady gets drafted here. All these guys are like, where am I going? Huh? So, again, Bill Parcells made the Patriots relevant. And then, of course, Bill, we draft Tom Brady in the 6th round, and the rest is history. Just knock the mic. So, again, Bill Parcells absolutely deserves to be in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Julian Edelman deserves to be in the Patriots Hall of Fame. It would have been, I think, slightly more entertaining had we voted Adam Vinatieri into the Hall of Fame this year with Parcells, just for the sheer fact that Parcells nearly cut Vinatieri when he joined the Patriots, and then he turned out to be the most clutch kicker of all time, kicking 45 yards into the snow the way he did against the Raiders in 2001. So I think it was an interesting thing that happened on Saturday, and glad that it did. It just sucks that the Patriots couldn't get the win on Sunday. Go figure. But now switching gears to the Red Sox. The Red Sox, they're on a hunt for their lives right now. Because, as you can see, the American League East is pretty much sewn up. The Blue Jays and Yankees have got playoff berths. The Rays and the Orioles have been eliminated. And then when you look at the wild card, obviously the Yankees are in it. The Royals have been eliminated. But it's basically down to the Red Sox, Tigers, and Astros. This is a playoff race that is fun. This is the time of year that we have been clamoring for a very long time here in Boston. And, yeah, would it have been better if, the Red Sox have clinched the AL East maybe this week or last week? Yeah, it would have been nice. I mean, maybe it's still in the cards, but according to Fangraph, it's really not in the cards. Because you're asking for the Yankees to lose and the Blue Jays. You got a 0.1% chance. Though we do have a 96.1% chance of making the playoffs. And obviously 96% of that is going to be clinching the wild card. So it's going to be interesting. Because right now, the magic number after last night's great victory over Toronto up in the Rogers Center, the magic number is now 3. If we go 5-0, we're obviously in. If we go 4-1 in the next 5 games, we're obviously in. If we go 3-2, we're obviously in. If we go 2-3, the Astros need to go 4-1 or worse in the next 5 games in order for us to still make the playoffs. If, God forbid, we go 1-4 in the next 5 games, the Astros need to go 3-2 or worse. And if the Red Sox go 0-5, the Astros need to go 2-3 or worse in order for us to clinch a playoff berth for the first time in 5 seasons, which is astounding. We're right there. We're right on the cusp. And the funny thing is, this playoff is wide open. The playoffs are wide open in the American League side. And why do I say that? Simple. Because in Houston, you have Jordan Alvarez and Jeremy Pena are both done for the foreseeable future. Two of their biggest players are out. They're done. They're not going to make it, back for any of these 5 games. Then you go to the Yankees. Now the Yankees, they got a lot of issues, and one of them was they wanted to lose last night. I don't know if you saw that. They wanted to lose last night. The only problem was they were playing the White Sox, who suck. And because the White Sox suck, they were too stupid to realize how to win the friggin' game and take it. You had a blooper hit into center field where the center fielder pulled up to let the ball fall. He could have made the play. He could have gotten the out. But no, he didn't. So that's how the Yankees won last night and clinched the playoff berth. Detroit is absolutely free-falling right now. Look at this. If you see Detroit Tigers 85-72, they have lost seven in a row, and in their last 10 are 1-9. 1-9. That's insane. They are absolutely free-falling, and the Cleveland Guardians, I almost said Indians, which, who cares? Cleveland just regained the first overall spot in the AL Central Division since early May. Wild. Then, Toronto, they're obviously cruising, though Max Scherzer is on the mound tonight for the Blue Jays, and he had a horrendous outing. A horrendous outing against Kansas City last week. And the Red Sox jumped off to a 3-0 lead. 3-0 through 4, and we got Crochet on the mound. So, that's what you need to do. Put pressure on Max Scherzer. Yeah, 3 runs in the first inning. So, we're right there. We're doing what we need to do. And then as for Seattle, now Seattle made some very good and shrewd acquisitions at the trade deadline in order to get better. The only thing is, though, what has Seattle ever won in their life? Has Seattle ever won anything? Oh, that's right. They had the best record in baseball's history back in 2001, and how did that turn out for them? That's right. They lost when it mattered. So, I'm good on the Mariners. And Cleveland is rising. Cleveland has been on a crazy winning streak, but have just lost David Fry, probably for the playoffs, because he took a 99-mile-an-hour fastball to the face. It was brutal. It was one of those issues where I don't mean to sound like a bad person, but the first time I saw that, I was laughing out of holy crap laughing. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I wasn't, happy about it by any stretch of the imagination. God, no. But it was I was just so stunned because he squared up for a bunt. He didn't even bother moving the bat up and down or trying to get out of the way. Granted, it's a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. You have a blink of an eye to move. But it was whoa. Bad. But luckily, it sounds like he's not going to need surgery. So that's huge. But I think part of the laughter too was part of because all I could think of was Justin Long from Dodgeball getting hit in the face with a wrench, and kind of equating the two, even though it's a 99-mile-an-hour baseball and it's a wrench, and half a wrench, simulated, of course. Otherwise, that's the teams that the Red Sox are going to be facing in the playoffs. And when you look at the way all these teams, which one of them is going to be eliminated, by the way, when you look at all these teams and how they, in their records against each other, that's the interesting thing. The Red Sox have the second best record when playing these 6 other teams. Toronto's number 1 at 28-21. Red Sox at 2 at 24-22. The Tigers are 3rd at 20-19. Cleveland 21-20. Seattle is 22-21, with the Yankees being second to last at 22-28, and the Astros are the worst at 18-25. The American League is wide open. Wide open. And I have no doubt that this Red Sox team, even with the departed Roman Anthony, for now, hopefully, that we can make a run. We absolutely can make a run. Right now, we're seeing Garrett Crochet in a pitching in an unknown area for him pitching wise, because he's thrown more innings pitched this season than he's ever had in his career. But he's still killing it. Lucas Giolito had a tough night last night, but he powered through, and with a little bit of help, he was able to get the victory. I mean, this September is wrapping up almost in a spot where if we win tonight, we're on our way. I mean, we got one more game against the Blue Jays tomorrow, and then we finish with Detroit at home. We're right there. You know, this is something that I want to see happen. Again, as I said, you know, now coming on 3 weeks ago, they need to go for it all, and you need to go there and show your support. That's the whole point. That's what this time of year is all about, being a fan. This is what we live for. This is the stuff that makes baseball and sports so entertaining. You know, we want our teams to be in the playoffs. Why wouldn't we? You know, and everybody who checked out when Roman Anthony left, or got hurt, excuse me. Yeah, it sucked. And yeah, we, you know, went on a little bit of a free fall there. But that doesn't mean the game ain't over. I know I'm crossing sports again, but Jeff Hostetler won the Super Bowl for the Giants, the backup quarterback. It can happen. Nick Foles beat us. Don't like to remember that. There's a lot of issues with that game. And the refs screwed us a number of times, but Nick Foles was the backup quarterback. And the only thing that is holding the Red Sox back, I just listed the 6 teams and kind of what they're dealing with. The only thing that's holding the Red Sox back are errors, and more errors. Trevor Story in his last 28 games has 9 errors. But in his first 125, he has 10. This season, he's 3rd in Major League Baseball amongst all shortstops, accumulating 19 errors. And as for the Red Sox this season, I stressed it all the way at the beginning of the season. They still have the most errors in MLB history. They have the most errors this season at 114. The second most is the Colorado Rockies, who, by the way, the Colorado Rockies are in the hunt for the 4th worst record in Major League Baseball history. And they're second at 108. It's almost like the Red Sox might take home the most errors in a single season this year. And if that's the case, they'll be the 5th team in Major League Baseball history. Major League Baseball history to have made the playoffs while leading the league in errors. So, again, they need to play clean defense. They need to get their act together. And Trevor Story, yeah, he's supposed to be a defensive guy. That's his forte. Defense, defense, defense. Yes, his hitting's pretty decent, and his hitting can be very good at times. but he prides himself on defense. So to be to be third amongst all Major League Baseball shortstops in errors committed, that's not going to be good. That's not something the Red Sox need in order to make the playoffs and make a deep playoff run. So the other, the Red Sox deserve for Fenway Park to be sold out this weekend. And sold out to the point where it is 100% Red Sox fans cheering their heads off, showing support behind this team that is in the hunt. 3 more games it's going to take for us to clinch a playoff spot. And who knows? If the Yankees fall flat on their face, maybe they can we can leapfrog them for the top spot. You know? And hey, anything can happen. That's the beauty of sports, is anything can happen. No matter what the expected outcome is, anything can happen. The last thing I do want to mention in terms of Major League Baseball is the fact that robot umpires are about to commence next season. You have the ABS system, automated balls and strikes system, is going to be implemented next year. And replay, I mentioned this earlier when discussing the referees and, how call happy and their 15 minutes of fame that they want. Even when they make bad calls. Otherwise, in your opinion, has the replay system been good for sports? Because you have a lot of things where a lot of people are hate it. If they make a bad call, live with it, deal with it. Whereas a lot of people, like myself, if we have an opportunity to get the call right, then let's get the call right. And that, to me, is more important. Now, also, these calls should not take 5 to 10 minutes to figure out whether or not it's an out, a strike, a ball, whether he got his hand in there in time, whether the ball went over the fence, or, whether that's a catch or a fumble or an interception. All these things, that's where replay can get a little bit too much. But to me, I think replay has been overall a net benefit. Maybe not by much, because when you look at the downsides to replays, look at all the time the replays look at what is a catch. Back when Dez Bryant was playing for the Cowboys up in Green Bay, people to this day will still argue Dez caught the ball. No, Dez didn't catch the ball because he didn't complete the process of a catch through the ground. You look at the Jesse James catch against the Patriots in the regular season that would have won Pittsburgh the game. But Jesse James, when he came to the ground, the ball rolled, which means he didn't have complete control, and he was using the ground for that fact. So, it was right, but it also took a very, very long time for them to figure out whether or not it's a catch. Then you look at the college ranks, and you have the targeting penalties, which targeting is when you use the crown of your helmet and you make helmet-to-helmet contact. Essentially, targeting, trying to take a player out, is their justification behind it. But when you look at the negative side of these replays, everything is slowed down to a millisecond, and you're not seeing something like these targeting plays, for instance, for what it is. And it's a defense mechanism. It's a football play. You know, you're lowering your head because you're trying to protect your body. You see the receiver going down like this, so your natural instinct is to go down as well. It just so happens you weren't prepared to go down, which is why when you do go down, the crown of your helmet goes first. It leads the way. You know, because it's a bang-bang play. You know, when you look at some of these plays, you know, in baseball, for instance, you know, last night was a great example. Ceddanne Rafaela was caught at third, and it looked like he got back to the base, and Nesson, Lou Merloni, they were like, yeah, it looks like he got back. I mean, it's close, but it looks like he doesn't get the tag in until Rafaela's hand has touched the bag. The only problem is the camera angle was right where the third baseman's foot was, so it's blocking that beginning part of the bag on the third baseline, so you can't see Ceddanne's hand before the tag hits him. And then on the other side of it, where you have the other angle is just off, and it doesn't look 100% like the tag and the hand are simultaneous. Maybe it looks like the tag hit the helmet from that angle, the opposite angle. So those are the tough parts, because as I stated on the show a couple weeks ago too, when talking about the new system in football, that it's the NFL's virtual on-field assistant rather than using the chain gang to measure first downs, you're not having the proper angle where if the chain had a camera built into it, a high-definition camera, where you could see exactly where the line is through that camera, not just the computer-generated model that we see on television with that yellow line. And with that being the case, then maybe we could get a better read of where the ball was. The only problem with that is, okay, you were going to need cameras for both sides of the chains, because if the play is running right but the camera's on the left side, the line, the pile up front, you're not going to be able to see where the ball is. You know, that's the only tough part with these replay systems, is there never seems to be a perfect angle. You know? Just when you think, oh, this would have been a perfect angle if we had it here. But of course they don't have it there. And of course it's just missing that much. Those are the issues with replay. But when all is said and done, I do believe a lot of replay has been good, has been beneficial. I need the tuck play. Oh, what? Oh, that's right. The tuck rule. I will live and die by that. Tom Brady absolutely did not fumble that football. And guess what helped? Replay. So without replay, the dynasty might not have happened. And that's why, at the end of the day, yes, I want to get it right. You know, Andreas Galarraga, yeah, I think it was, it was. So the pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, Galarraga, he had a perfect game blown because of an umpire making a horrendous call. And it was blatant as day, and I can't believe the umpire, because as soon as he made the save call, he instantly knew that the call was wrong. But he didn't overturn himself. He didn't say save and then go, no, I'm sorry, out. You know, and Galarraga went on to have the first ever 28-out perfect game. I know it's not possible, but you know what I mean. Because you got the next batter out. And that was probably the only time I actually ever felt bad for an umpire or a referee. Because you could tell he wasn't doing that because he hated the pitcher. You know, he definitely did not want to make SportsCenter for making the worst call in Major League Baseball history. But had Major League Baseball had replay, it would have gone back. It would have taken 2 seconds. And Galarraga would have had a perfect game. But unfortunately, statistics will never show that he did. Even though for all of us who watch that, know that he is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history to have a 28-out perfect game. I'm giving that to him. And I think a lot of Detroit's giving that to him as well. So, again, with the robot umpires coming in, I think it's a net positive. It's going to suck because there are going to be some pitches where you get away with one, but then the other team's going to challenge it because you only get 2 challenges with these. The other team's going to challenge it, and then they're going to be like, "Oh wait, nope, that's a ball or that's a strike," and things change. I mean, perfect example too. Last night, George Springer was called out on a strike 3. That nothing was a little bit high and away and kind of a ball, but it worked out for the Red Sox. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about that. Hell, we got the win out of it. So, I think, again, as long as these things don't take a million years to figure out and it's almost straightforward and you have to have, like, the perfect alignment, I think adding this robot umpire is good. I also don't want robot players or robot managers or anything like that. But, again, that's why we got to take the analytics out of sports and give the sports back to the people, to the players, the guys who are playing it, who know the game. Not the way Ryan Clark knows the game, where he can call out Peter Schrager like that, but in other ways. So, tell me what you guys think. Again, thank you so much for sticking around. This is the Boston Sports Summit, episode number 64. I am your host, Tim Barnett, part of the Grid Network. And please, if you could, just take a quick second just to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't hurt. If you like what you hear, you don't like what you hear, if you could help a guy out, it would be extremely beneficial. Also, you can follow me along in social media, Boston Sports Summit on Instagram, at Boss Sports Summit on X, Boston Sports Summit on YouTube, and then the Grid Network, which has a whole host of great shows, including our new Saturday morning tailgate, college football, Saturdays at 10 a.m., myself, Bryson, and Arthur, all coming at you from a Gator perspective, a volunteer perspective, and a Buckeye perspective in order. So, listen, thank you so much. Sticking around. See you guys Saturday morning. And for the Boston Sports Summit, this is Tim Barnett. So, thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. God bless. Thank you.